Now, the stars of Tiswas were back in Birmingham at the weekend for a reunion of the children's show, which helped make people like Lenny Henry and Chris Tarrant so famous.
Many of the stars were there, including, of course, the infamous Phantom Flan Flinger. Just to let you know, there are flashing images in Mark Goff's report.
Saturday, Saturday is Tiswas Day.
40 years ago, an anarchic children's TV show hit our screens. Its stars and their antics became legendary.
It probably did change our lives. It made our careers.
At the weekend, they got back together again, invited by the Tiswas fan club. And no Tiswas reunion would be complete, of course, without the Phantom Flan Flinger. No one escaped. Just like on the show.
No, I'm sorry, that's completely wrong.
This was Legs & Co. from Top of the Pops. The flan was one of the hallmarks.
The knick-knack, paddywhack, give the dog a pie, watch it sailing through the sky. This old dog.
Did you enjoy the enormous kind of fame that came with that?
Yeah, I mean, if we're honest, for me, for Sally, for Lenny Henry, for Bob, Carol G's, for all of us, I mean, it probably did change our lives. It made our careers. And yes, all the stuff of people coming up and bothering you in restaurants and so on, that's fine. It's part of the, part of what you do, and it's been like it ever since. But this lot are always an incredibly loyal, the original sort of fan base, You
couldn't go to a restaurant, you couldn't go to a cinema, you couldn't go anywhere without being recognised. And that was nice. It was not saying, stop recognising me. It was nice. But you had no privacy. So if you went on holiday, you had to go somewhere completely different. And Chris and I used to grow beards when the programme wasn't on. We used to grow beards, hoping it wouldn't be recognised. And people would say, "Why have you grown a beard?" I said, "So you can't recognise me." I go, "Oh right."
Chris Tarrant was a reporter on ITV Today when he was recruited for Tiswas.
I was doing your job.
You were doing my job. One of us has become hugely successful.
Peter Harris, the first producer, came up to me and said, "You can have 25 quid for an extra 3 hours on a Saturday morning." I thought, put me down for that. He said it'll be a quiet linking children's programme, and it sort of was. It's just, I think, that we were mad, and it just developed and grew and grew and grew. I mean, it was never intended to be the huge phenomenon it became, but great.
I love you all. Love you all. And the Queen love you.
And 40 years on, the fans still love them. Mark Goff, ITV News.
Brilliant. I think we need some custard pies on this ship. No, not
We
really.
do indeed. John Gorman said he grew a beard so he wouldn't get recognised so much. You could try that, I suppose.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
We asked you what you thought about the programme, and many said you wished it was still on. Susan Conway from Birmingham told us, "Tiswas kept my children quiet all Saturday morning. I have to admit, I loved it also."
I love this one. Leslie Reed from Staffordshire was on the show when she was younger. She said, "I was so small that my mother wrote in and they threw manure all over me. She hasn't grown since, apparently."
Didn't work then.
It didn't work.
Helen Donovan from Evesham said she didn't need an alarm clock as a kid in the 70s and 80s. She said Tiswas was the best incentive to get up, loved every second of it.
And Anthony Eyre posted, "Loved it. I was 16 in 1977 when my first job asked me to do overtime on a Saturday. Guess what? He said no because Tiswas was on. Bring it back." That's what I
TV you
say.
have to stop for. Brilliant. Well, thank you all so much for getting in touch. It's
Yeah.
great to hear your memories.
Now, no manure or custard pies that the weather will be throwing our way, but it is throwing something in our direction. It's going to be quite lively tonight with rain and some wind in the forecast as well. So let's find out. Let's get the details with Helen Plint.
Hello again, good evening. Well, the chance of some fairly turbulent conditions overnight tonight as we bear the brunt of ex-hurricane Gonzalo. Now, as that moves through, it will break up and lose momentum. So not too much to contend with when it comes to heavy rainfall, but it's certainly those gales which really will whip through, hitting up to 50 miles per hour at times. So much so, in fact, that the Met Office has issued a yellow warning covering us through tomorrow when we may see the chance of some damage caused by those brisk breezes. Now, this is the band of rain working its way in from the west overnight tonight, starting to affect us in the early hours of tomorrow morning. And as I say, it shouldn't be too heavy, but still the chance of the odd sharper burst here and there. But most of us will bear the brunt of that very wet evening and start to tomorrow morning. But the good news is, with that brisk breeze, it moves things along fairly quickly. So not too much disruption come rush hour first thing tomorrow morning. In fact, as you can see, chance of a few glimmers and brighter breaks, even some sunshine to be had in the morning. But those temperatures really struggling tomorrow. And after that patchy rain works through, the winds really change direction, so feeling much chillier too. Come the afternoon, we bear the brunt of yet another system, which brings with it some showers, some of them possibly heavy.
Well, time now for a reminder of tonight's top stories on ITV News Central. A former West Midlands police officer says he believes there has been a conspiracy to prevent the truth emerging about the men responsible for the Birmingham pub bombings. Bill Craig claims to have been told his old force knows the identities of 5 men who planted the bombs. It comes as a new pop song is released in the victim's memory.
A mother from Lichfield who suffered pre- and postnatal depression is backing a campaign to make sure all women suffering from it receive the care they need.
And a woman from Worcester who has cystic fibrosis is recovering from a transplant operation after being given a kidney by a total stranger. Sally Ann Granger and Wesley Joyce met after she appealed for a donor in her local newspaper.
That is it from us this evening. I hope you can join us tomorrow. Lucy and I are back with you at 6 then. But from all the team for now, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
On the eve of the Pistorius sentencing, his brother and sister open their hearts. They claim a false picture has been painted of him to the judge who tomorrow decides his fate.
I can't relate to the Oscar that's been portrayed by the prosecution.
Also tonight, an airline worker's fears about Ebola precautions, as 55% of us say we're worried about an outbreak in the UK.
The power-switching websites accused of making money by holding back the deals that could save you the most.
And Linda Bellingham, honoured in life by the Queen and by countless friends and colleagues in death.
This is ITV News at 6:30 with Alistair Stewart and Mary Nightingale.
Good evening. Oscar Pistorius, his brother and sister, cling to their belief in his version of events, a version that didn't save him from being convicted of manslaughter. But speaking to ITV News, they reject the picture painted by the prosecution, who want him jailed for 10 years for killing his girlfriend, Riva Steenkamp.
The prosecution say the athlete was controlling and obsessed with guns. Amy and Carl Pistorius say they don't recognise that description and never had any doubt that their brother shot Riva by mistake. They've been speaking to our Africa correspondent, Rohit Kachru.